did I finish that prematurely? Hello everyone, welcome along. It's Jim and John here, and this is our first little video we thought we'd do together. And we've been talking about this for a long time because we thought we'd make a little video on the stuff that guitarists always talk about, more of the guitar kind of psychology side of things. Although we might cover some equipment, Jim.
Yeah, we'll cover that.
Yeah, if it comes up, we will. But we thought a big thing that we'd like to talk about today is, I guess it's practicing, isn't it? It's kind of this thing, but it's this thing, you know, that when you you go to a jam session, say, you know, and you play with someone, and you've practiced really hard, and then you play with someone and you realise, oh, I can't do that, and you're really embarrassed, you know, because you can't do it.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's happened to us all, I think, and it's just with that, you know, it's quite interesting to see how other players deal with it, because some people, you know, they feel destroyed, don't they, and they give up. I've heard it, you know. A friend of mine, we went to a concert, we went to a Steve Vai concert, and I thought, oh, I want to go away and practice, you know, and my friend said, I'm never going to play again.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's one of those interesting things, because Jim plays at clubs, don't you?
Yeah. And that can be very challenging because you never know what you're going to get to play, what someone wants to sing. So yeah, you're sailing on the seat of your pants.
Mm.
But yeah, talking about being discouraged by other people's virtuosity. And I think Tommy Emmanuel's probably a good example of watching someone that, you know, can just tear it up, and yes, you can become somewhat discouraged. But on the other hand, if you're really dedicated and you've got a passion for this thing, then that you can put that over there, and say, well, that's great, and I really, you know, I'm in awe of that. But after a while, you get to know where you are and what you have achieved to this particular point in time, and you've done that because you've kept doing it.
Yeah.
And you won't achieve it if you stop.
Yeah, it's very easy to forget, you know, what you can do, isn't it? Because, you know, when you start, you can just play, you know, one chord, but you feel like a bit of a fraud, don't you? Because I remember playing somewhere when I was really young, and I knew like 2 chords, I think, and we were playing, and you know, you feel like, oh, I'm playing, but I'm not, type thing, you know.
Yeah, I love that story with the Beatles in the early days, and they took 2 buses to get across Liverpool to find this guy that knew the B7 chord.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and you know that. When I read things like that, and I think it's helpful to do a lot of reading about musicians and how they started and where they started, and there's not a lot of it that you can tap into where they've said, in the beginning, it was really hard. I didn't know anything, you know. B.B. King and all those guys, you wonder, where did they start? What chord did they learn first? How did they learn to navigate the fretboard?
Yeah, that's a hard thing, isn't it? Because when you see players on, well, you know, in shows or even on the internet nowadays, you know, it's very polished, and you don't see the behind the scenes of them, you know, messing up perhaps, but it's there, you know. That's the thing, isn't it? Just because I know Steve Vai, I read once he rehearses something like, you know, 12 hours a day for 1 year before the concert.
Wow. So
you're not gonna go, well, hopefully you won't go wrong, you know. I'll probably go wrong.
Well, actually, it's funny you should say that, because I was watching some old footage of Buddy Guy, B.B. King, and I can't think of his name. Anyway, Roy Buchanan, and Buddy Guy came to do a solo, and he went to the wrong place, and he screwed up a bit. But if he hadn't pulled a face, and he knew he screwed up, and he screwed his face up a bit, and I've replayed it, and really you wouldn't have known.
No.
It wasn't that bad, you know, it wasn't a train wreck, it wasn't really bum notes, it was just kind of a little bit out there.
Yeah.
And if he'd have done it again, if he hadn't screwed his face up and he'd done it again, you would have thought, oh, that's pretty inventive, you know.
Yeah, I think it's those moments, you know, especially when you begin, they can kind of destroy you, can't they? You know, if you're in a jamming situation and something goes wrong and you can't do something, you know, you feel destroyed. But actually, they're the best lessons, I think,
absolutely.
aren't they?
Yeah, if you're dedicated, if you've got the passion and you're dedicated, then all that stuff is just more encouragement to go and find out what went wrong, where did I go wrong, how can I fix it up for next time, you know.
Yeah,
and we learn by that.
Yeah, because we were talking the other day about, you know, you can be very good at a particular thing, like say, for example, you're in a band and you've got a good set list, but then you go in and sit with someone else who doesn't play your style, and you don't know what's going on, you know, because we were talking the other day about Hotel California. Now, you know, it's in B minor, but at your club, they said, okay, now play it. You know, Jim had the solo all worked out, didn't you? You know, the good solo from the record. And then they say, okay, now we're going to do it in D minor, you know. And then you think, oh, what would I do there, you know?
Yeah.
And it's those type of things that can make you feel really bad. But then after that, you go home and you think, oh, I better try that in a different key, you know.
Yeah, I try to take at least, well, not more than two things that night that I can't do, and go home. If I think of more than that, it's too much. And usually, actually, one's quite often enough, but two is, you know, I'll go home and I'll remember. So I make a little note or a mental note, preferably a written note because I tend to forget. And then I'll go home and I'll work on that and try it in all different keys. You know, that was some advice I had years ago. If you learn it in all the different positions and all the keys, and you think, why would I need to do that? Well, because I think the more you do on the fretboard with your fingers and with that muscle memory thing, what I found in the early stages was I didn't know what that note was going to sound like before I hit it.
Yeah, I know what you mean,
and that was, you know, it was just a minefield of bum notes and mistakes. But as you progress, I found that the balance started to move where the correct ones were starting to come up and the bum ones were starting to come down a bit. So then some nights, you know, wasn't too bad. And then something would tell you in a nanosecond, no, don't go there. That's not going to sound right. And so you listen to that and, it was correct. You know, so listen to your intuition. And that happens because you're playing all the time. As Buddy Guy says, have your guitar with you all the time. If you're watching TV, have it sitting beside you. Have it in your hands as much as you can.
Yeah, these are. It's very interesting, this type of thing, because these are the kind of lessons. You know, you can go for guitar lessons, and like we all do, you know, or maybe you don't. But these are some of the best lessons you will get, to be absolutely humiliated when you can't play something and you think, I do that. But I do remember what you were saying there. My first teacher, he said to me, that was one of my first questions. When you start a solo, how do you know where to put your fingers? You know, and he said, oh well, if it's an A chord, you play an A note. I said, really? What does that mean? You know, but I was really excited to hear that there was kind of some way that you could play, because I just used to think it was, you know, just amazing.
Yeah.
You know, really. We'll cover that in another video. You know, is it worth learning theory or should you just play? You know.
Yeah, and you have these moments of enlightenment where someone points something out, and I think too, you've got to be ready for this information. Sometimes someone will tell you something and you're not ready for it. An example for me with that would be the cage system. When I was first shown that, it didn't, you know, nothing registered until a few years later, and someone showed me in a different, not calling it the cage system, but just saying, you know, this particular guy, hugely respected as a guitar player. So if he'd have said, go and stand on your head in the corner and eat walnuts, you know, you'd be a great guitar player. I would have done it, you know. And when he started showing me the system, and after we'd finished it, over a period of months and months. Then I realised, this is that. I'm sure I've got some information with someone. That's the cage system. Oh, wow! And that it didn't make me a guitar player, but it certainly took the mystery out of the fretboard.
Yeah.
And I think that's why a lot of us as guitar players, when we start, we wonder. You know an E chord there, and you know an E chord there, and you know that one's an E chord. But what about in between? And then someone pointed out that that's an E chord as well.
Okay, right, yeah.
And that one was a revelation. Well, that's, you can shift those ones too. Yeah, you can shift these ones as well, although you probably wouldn't, because it gets a bit of a handful. But that concept of how the fretboard has a system.
It is very weird, the guitar, and I say because, when you have lessons earlier, or even if you don't, if a friend shows you something or something, you learn the chord like you say an E, but then you go from that and you're in a band and someone's suddenly playing it, and you think, what? How did it go from that to this thing I've never seen before?
Yeah.
And so you're always in these situations where there'll be something someone plays, actually even because of they've just learnt it wrong. I've got a student at the moment, and I can't. How does he do it? He plays a D chord like that. I think really, really weird, And I'm trying to tell him, look, if you do it that way, it will be much easier to change between chords. You can get away with it now because you're only playing one chord, But when you change, but you see now that is something he's going to have to discover through some hardship, like we're talking about, because sooner or later, when he joins a jam, a band, or he starts to jam with someone, and he's playing at that, and he finds he can't change, because he's playing the chord wrong, that is going to be his hard lesson. So I guess, we're all going to go through that, is the point, I guess. But what we're trying to say is try and learn from it, and hopefully it will help you, because I don't think there's a person alive who picks up the guitar. Well, maybe there's some of them. I'm certainly not one of them who picks up the guitar and can play really great, don't make any mistakes. You can only get better, can't you, from making tons of errors, really.
Well, you do wonder about that, what you've just mentioned there. Some people seem to be able to just play, and how did they achieve that? Where did they start? Did they pick the guitar up? And I'm pretty sure no one's picked the guitar up and gone, put my finger there. Yeah, yep, that's an E chord. Yep. Now if I play that same shape there, that'll be a G chord. Yep, yeah. There's an A. Oh, and if I do that, that'll be an A major 7th. Yeah. Yeah. And what about this one? Oh, that's a nice chord. Yeah. Oh, well, that's enough for today. Tomorrow I'll have a go at
Mixolydian.
Yeah. I'll try, it's just the perception that there's always someone much better than you, and
there is,
and I don't think that's what it's about. It's about having a passion for the guitar and enjoying what you're doing, even though you might not enjoy the humiliation and the practice, but each piece fits in another little piece of the puzzle.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? If you want to be good, you've got to be very open to being humbled every day. Because you can get to a stage with the guitar where you think, I'm doing quite well, but it's very easy to be, humbled. But you've got to be open like that to make yourself better, don't you? You've got to be open for a thrashing, really,
absolutely.
Every day.
My advice is join a club and put yourself in that position where you're totally out of your comfort zone, and then you will know where all the holes are. Yeah,
that's just very true. It's so hard. Yeah, it's a bit like it's the same thing as teaching, isn't it? Really, because you get, you can't be afraid if you're a teacher to show someone everything that you know. And also as a player, you've got to be open to, well, I'm going to make tons of mistakes, but it's the only way I can get better.
Yeah,
isn't
that's
it?
a good point too. What and you as a teacher, how do you know what it is that someone wants to know? How do you know what it is they want to know?
Mm.
They presumably they've come to learn to play guitar, and well, that's great, but it covers a huge.
Sorry.
A huge thing. What is it you want to know? Do you want to play a few chords so you can sing some songs, or do you want to play like Clapton or whoever the latest idol is? And then that might not be really what it is they want to do once they start to get into
Yeah,
it.
well, you change, isn't it? I mean, I think I started it. Sorry, Jim, I'm choking now. I think I started because I wanted to play a couple of chords.
Yeah.
And then when you can do that, it's never enough, is it? You think, oh, what else could I do?
Yeah.
You know, and then that sets you off on a journey for another 20 years or something like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, we'd love to hear from you. Whatever kind of issues that you're having with the guitar, do let us know. If you'd like us to cover any equipment too, just do let us know in the comments below. But I think our little message for this video is those things that really make you feel bad for days on end that you can't do. Don't worry, that's a really good thing. Use them as a little tool, to help you.
And think about something that you've done that you've wanted to learn, and you've actually done it. Because if you don't make a start on something, you'll never do it. So you make a start on it and you put some time away each day, and at a period of time you learn what it is that you need to know. Remember that, because you've achieved that, and it can be done. It just takes time.
Yeah, that's very good advice, that, actually. Yeah, that's right. Thanks, Jim.
You're welcome.
That was very good. That's very good.
And we hope you've done something today that could be helpful to you in your journey on the guitar.
Yeah, next week we'll cover something else. Do let us know if you've got any ideas, as I say, and remember to subscribe. And have a good week.
Bye for now.